Hey guys, so in today's video, we're going to check out question 2, the organic chemistry question of the Gauteng 2025 prelim. This is for chemistry, so let's jump right in. It says the letters A to F in the table below represent 6 organic compounds. We have the structural formula here for A with a double bond O over there. We have our condensed molecular formula over here with just C's and H's, so some sort of hydrocarbon chain. Here we have a bromine and a chlorine attached, so some sort of hydrohalogen for C. For D, we see our Q over here, so this is some sort of carboxylic acid. And then E, we have ethine. This is a triple bond for a hydrocarbon. And then as we can see here, we have an OH for F. This is some sort of alcohol with our hydroxyl group over there. So 2.1 says, name the homologous series to which each of the following compounds belong. We just ran through them quickly, but 2.1.1, A is a C double bond O over there, which means we have this sheet over here, this organic molecule sheet, and we're going to reference it as we work through it. It just helps us so you guys can visualize it a bit more clearly. So what we have here for A is the double bond O on the C. So if we're going to look here between the aldehydes and the ketones, we can see that we have a C double bond O over here and a C double bond O over here. But there's one difference because the aldehyde has this H attached to it over here. So a little memory device is CHO. Aldehyde is such a weird word. It's just a way to remember that compared to ketones, which only has a C double bond O over there. And what we can see is that this C double bond O for a ketone has 2 C's on either side and no place for an H to be attached to it because there are already 4 lines around the C. And if we're looking here, we can see that there are 2 C's around it. C double bond O, there's no room for an H because it's not on the end, which means it is not an aldehyde. And there are 4 lines around it, so we just have a ketone over here because of our C double bond O. That means we can just go ahead for 2.1.1, we can write ketone, and that would earn us 1 mark over there. And then 2.1.2 for C, we can see that C here has bromines and chlorines on it. So like we mentioned just now, something with a bromine, a chlorine, and an iodine is a haloalkane. So a haloalkane is a hydrohalogen, but a haloalkane is when we have the halogen attached to an alkane chain. So we can just go ahead and write haloalkane and we will get our 1 mark over there. And just as we mentioned, ethine is our triple bond over here. As we can see, we also have our Q over here for our D, which is a COOH, which is always on the end here for a carboxylic acid. And then an OH over here is our alcohol that's attached over there, like our ethanol in this example, as we can see on the sheet here. So that earned us 1 mark. And then 2.2 says, write down the IUPAC name of compound C. Okay, so we have compound C over here. I'm going to redraw it for us. So wherever I've just drawn lines, that means they're just the hydrogens over there. In the test, we have to draw all the hydrogens, but for now, I'm just going to leave them like that. But what is important for the naming convention specifically are the location of the bromine and the chlorine, as well as which one is our longest chain. Because our longest chain over here is a bent chain. And if we're going to count it this way, we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't really matter how we bend the chain, as long as we can see that it's 5 C's either way. But what is important is where we start the numbering from, because the general rule of thumb is always start the numbering where the most action is occurring. By that, there's a bromine attached on this first C here. We have to number this C as 1 compared to numbering this C as 1. Because if we number this C as 1, then bromine will be on 5, and we don't want that. It's always about where the most action is occurring. So therefore we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's call it 5 over here, how we bend the chain. So this means we have to write the halogens first and in alphabetical order. So that works out for us because what we have is 1 bromo, 3 chloro, and then we see that this C over here didn't have a number because it's not on our main chain, which means that it is a methyl attachment group. And that means we have 4 because it's attached on the 4 methyl. So we've dealt with the bromine, the chlorine, and the methyl over here, which means all the side chains are dealt with. And then we just have to say our longest chain, which is meth, eth, prop, but, pent. And they are all single bonds, so we have pentane, which means this is the IUPAC name of compound C, and that would earn us 3 marks. Because then 2.3 says, write down the letter for the compound that has a carbonyl group. Okay, so what we're looking for is a carbonyl group is from a ketone. It is when we have a C double bond O over here. In some papers, I've seen them call an aldehyde a carbonyl, but usually it's called a formyl. A way to remember that is that there's a substance called formaldehyde, and that substance has the name aldehyde in it, so it's basically formyl plus aldehyde, and we have formaldehyde. So formyls are from aldehydes, ketones have carbonyls. These are all the names for the functional groups. Okay, carboxylic acids have carboxyls. You might be seeing a pattern right now as far as the naming. Alcohols is a little bit different. They are called hydroxyls. So we still have the hydroxyl. And those are the general functional group names that they ask for based on aldehydes, ketones, carboxylic acids, and alcohols. So that means write down the letter that has a carbonyl group. As we established, a carbonyl is from a ketone. A ketone is what we labeled A. So therefore, write down the letter. We're just going to write A over here, and that'll be 1 mark over there. So then 2.4 says, write down the structural formula for the 2.4.1 functional isomer of compound A. So functional isomers have the same amount of C's and H's, but functional means that it will have a different lock and key. Just like this sheet we were looking at, having a different functional group places us in a different category over here, a different homologous series. So the most common functional isomers have to do with esters and carboxylic acids. So these ones are very common. And then aldehydes and ketones. These guys are also very common because we just have to move the double bond O to a different location, and then we have changed the homologous series to which it belongs, which means we have esters and carboxylic acids, aldehydes, and ketones. So considering these are the two options we have as far as functional isomers, same amount of C's and H's, as we can see A over here, and we established it is a ketone, which means if we're going to draw it, all we have to do is move this double bond O to the end. As we can see here, we have propanone in this example here with a double bond O in the middle, and then the only difference is moving the double bond O to the end. So that means we have C with 3 H's around it, a C with 2 H's around it, a C again with 2 H's around it, and then we have our C with our double bond O on the end, and then we have 1, 2, 3, and we need a 4th line, so therefore we put the H over here. And it doesn't matter whether we put it on this side or on this side, as long as it's on the end, that's where we'll start counting, so therefore it's always on the 1, because it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, or if it was on this side, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is the functional isomer of the ketone. This will be meth-eth-prop-but-butanol. And that is the IUPAC name for the aldehyde. So that just earned us 2 marks over there. And then 2.4.2 says, write down the structural formula for the ester with the same molecular formula as compound D. And just like we've done previously, aldehydes and ketones are one pair of functional isomers. And here we're talking about an ester with the same molecular formula as compound D. Compound D is a carboxylic acid, and we have to turn it into an ester. So this is just another way of saying draw the functional isomer for D, therefore making this carboxylic acid an ester. And as we can see here, we need the same amount of C's and H's, but in a different arrangement. So if we have a meth-ethanoic acid, we have 2 C's. We could then have a methyl methanoate, for example. So say now this guy vanished. We would then have to rearrange these 2 C's in the format of having an oxygen bridge, just like our ester over here, where we have a COO, or cocoa is a good memory device for an ester because Coco Chanel smells good and esters generally smell good. They are in the perfumes. So we turn it from that compared to a COOH. This is our carboxylic acid. So all we have to do is change the arrangement of the C's and H's so that it no longer has the COOH on the end, but it has a COO in the middle. Okay, and as we can see here, we have 1, 2 C's. That means we're going to have 1 C, an oxygen bridge here, and then another C over here. And then on the one side, we have our 3 H's, and then on this side, we have our double bond O, and then we have 1, 2, 3. We need a 4th line, so we're going to have to draw an H over here. And this would be the correct formatting here. This was meth-ethanoic acid, and now what we have is splitting up our oxygen bridge. We have a methyl methanoate. So the O8, the methanoate or the ethanoate or any sort of O8 is the side that has the double bond O on it. And this would earn us 2 marks because this is the ester with the same molecular formula as compound D. It is the functional isomer of compound D. So then 2.4.3, the tertiary alcohol of compound F. So we have primary, secondary, and tertiary alcohols. And we can first see that this alcohol here, this hydroxyl, is attached to a C, that is attached to 2 other Cs, which means that in a scenario like this, if this whole side was gone, this would be a primary alcohol because there's only 1 C attached to the C that the hydroxyl group is attached to. So it's not about it being attached on the first or the second C, it's about how many Cs are attached to the C that the hydroxyl group is attached to, which means that in this scenario, we're currently dealing with a secondary alcohol because there are 2 Cs attached to the C that the hydroxyl group is attached to. And that means if we're turning this whole molecule into a tertiary alcohol, the only way we can do that is by adding a C over here, because then there'll be 3 Cs attached to the C that the hydroxyl group is attached to. And we don't want to add additional Cs. It means that we're going to remove this guy and we're going to shift it over here so that we have this arrangement with 3 Cs attached to the C that the hydroxyl group is attached to. So therefore, I'm just going to go ahead and draw that quickly. And this would earn us 2 marks over there because we have 3 Cs attached to the C that the hydroxyl group is attached to, and we haven't added any more Cs or taken any other Cs away, and therefore kept the same amount of Cs and H's. So that just earned us 2 marks over there. And then 2.5 says, explain why compound A is not an unsaturated hydrocarbon. So compound A over here is not an unsaturated hydrocarbon. So I have a memory device for this. I say I sat down to sing. So what this means is that saturated bonds are single. So I sat down to sing is the memory device, which means saturated bonds are hydrocarbons with only C's and H's that only have single bonds. And then unsaturated are any hydrocarbons with double or triple bonds in the hydrocarbon chain as well. 2 marks here, which means there's 2 parts that we have to refer to. First, we don't see any double bonds or multiple bonds between any of the carbon atoms, any of the C atoms in our hydrocarbon chain. So we can write unsaturated means multiple bonds between 2 C atoms. So that will earn us 1 mark over there. And we can see that there are no double bonds or triple bonds between the C's specifically. That mentioned the unsaturated portion, but the hydrocarbon portion, hydrocarbons only have C's and H's. This has an O attached to the C, and therefore it cannot be a hydrocarbon either. So we can also write there is an oxygen atom, and hydrocarbons only have C's and H's. So this explanation would earn us 2 marks dealing with the unsaturated portion and the hydrocarbon portion, because there are no double or triple bonds between the C's, and there should only be carbon and hydrogen atoms, and we have an oxygen atom attached to the C. Cool. And that just earned us 2 marks over there. And then 2.6 says, which letter in the table above represents 2.6.1, an unsaturated hydrocarbon? So this is a nice follow-on question because we just chatted about an unsaturated hydrocarbon, which means we can only have C's and H's and we need double or triple bonds between the carbons. So we can look through here. It's definitely not A or C because we have an oxygen here, a bromine and a chlorine here. It isn't a carboxylic acid, nor is it an ester over here, which means it could be between B or E. And if we're going to look at E off the bat, ethine is meth eth, so we got 2 C's here. There are only H's, there's no attachment groups, and then there is a triple bond. And unsaturated hydrocarbons have double or triple bonds, so therefore E is our answer here for 2.6.1. And that would earn us 1 mark over there. And then 2.6.2 says the compound with the general formula CnH2nO. So if we're going to reference the sheet here, we can see the general formulas for all of these guys. So if we're going to go ahead and see CnH2nO, we're dealing with either an aldehyde or a ketone over here. It isn't an alcohol because that would be an OH on the end. It also isn't a carboxylic acid like D because we'll have 2 oxygens over there. As you can see, carboxylic acids and esters will have the same amount of everything, same amount of C's, H's, and O's, just in a different arrangement. That's why they're functional isomers, which means that we have to look for either an aldehyde or a ketone. And we didn't see any aldehydes in this example. We had to draw one earlier, but we are dealing with A here again, because this is our ketone. It has a general formula of CnH2nO. So we can just go ahead and write A over there, and that would earn us 1 mark over here. And then 2.7 says, using molecular formula, write down a balanced chemical equation for the combustion of compound B, so compound B over here, in excess oxygen. So this is a very common question. They like the combustion reaction in the presence of oxygen. and it's quite a nice one for us, especially if we do life sciences, because it's just like breathing for humans. So first off, molecular formula, we can't just write it like this because this is a condensed structural formula. This is the condensed version of drawing something out like this. So that means we're just going to have to go ahead, count the total amount of C's and H's, and then we can take it from there, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 C's over here, and then from there we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and we have 12 H's over here. If ever we were to draw this B, this little portion in brackets would be a side chain. That's always something to note. Anything in brackets is a side chain. But right now, we don't need that for the molecular formula, so we're writing down the balanced chemical equation for the combustion of compound B in excess oxygen. So if it is in the presence of excess oxygen, it means that it will be reacting with oxygen on the reactant side. So we have O2 over here, and that is going to go to, just like humans breathing, CO2 as a byproduct, or like a fire burning, CO2 is being released after we're burning up oxygen. That is what combustion means. And then we also release water. So we have H2O over here. So we're just going to go ahead and balance it now, because we have our molecular formula in the presence of oxygen going to CO2 and H2O also in molecular formula forms. And if we're going to count the amount of C's, we have 5 C's over here, we have 12 H's, and then we have 2 oxygens. Cool. And then on this side, just aligning our C's, we have 1 C. Then the H's we have 2 H's. And then we have 3 oxygens. So a general rule of thumb is try and balance your C's first, and then your H's and O's will take care of themselves, especially the oxygens, because we have this lone oxygen here that we can add any numbers to balance it. So if we start with a 5 here in front of our CO2, we'll turn this 1 into a 5, and then 5 times 2 is 10 for the amount of oxygens, and then plus 1 over here. So we have 11 oxygens here now. So our C's are balanced, which is great. Our H's are not balanced. So let's take care of them next. So if we put a 6 in front of our H2O here, we have 12 H's in turn, which is perfectly balanced. And then we just have to go ahead and recount our oxygens, because then we have 10 oxygens here and 6 oxygens there, which means we have 16 oxygens in total. So the C's are balanced, the H's are balanced. This last move is quite easy for us then, because all we have to do is add an 8 in front of our O2 here, because 8 times 2 is 16. There's no other oxygens on this side. Then we have 16, and we've balanced our oxygens like that. So therefore, C's are the same, H's are the same, and oxygens are now the same as well. And the balancing would earn us our 3rd mark, so therefore we got 3 out of 3 over there. And then last question over here, 2.8 says, a compound is analyzed and found to have an empirical formula, so the simplest representation of CH2O. The molar mass of the compound is found to be 150 grams per mole. That is the actual molar mass of the molecular formula. It's saying, what is the molecular formula of the compound? Usually this last question is either determine the empirical formula or doing some sort of molecular formula ratio, which is exactly what we're doing now, because what we're doing is a ratio of the molar mass of the molecular formula over the molar mass of the empirical formula. And we're always going to get a nice whole number here. And that means we're just going to have to multiply all the numbers by whatever number we get in this ratio, because the molar mass of the molecular formula, as we've seen, is 150. And then the molar mass of the empirical is what we have to calculate. We can just do that from the periodic table, or if we know the molar masses of each of these elements, we can just add them up, because carbon is 12 plus hydrogen is 1. So 1 times 2 is 2 plus oxygen is 16. So we can get all of this from our periodic table, but what we have then is 150 over 30, and this looks like a nice clean number for us, which means we've done our calculations correctly, because 150 divided by 30 on our calculators is 5, which means that all we have to do is this guy, we have to multiply everything by 5. We don't just put 5 in front of the whole thing. It's not like moles. We have to update the numbers, the amount of each element inside of this compound, which means if we are multiplying this by 5, we end up having a molecular formula, the actual formula in nature, not just the simplest representation. We have C5H10 and then O5. So we have C5H10O5, and that would earn us 2 marks over here and 21 marks for this whole section. Great job, guys. Let me know if there are any questions in the comments below, and otherwise I will see you in the next video.